Curtains have opened up the auditorium to usher the performance of Pablo. Spotlight shines overhead. Director raises their thumb. If everybody's comfortable, I'd like to welcome you to the show. Thank you for waiting to now unwind. Feast your imagination on what you find. What will you find? Past Babylon.
Past Babylon.
Past Babylon. Past Babylon. It's been 5 years, spark up a blunt. It's been 5 years, hot box a cunt. It's been 5 years, my brain hurts a lot. It's been 5 years, in pussy snot, labias and genitals. Greetings. I am the superstar of the podcast. I put the star in star car. I put the car in cardiac arrest. Better hold your breast. We've got one hell of a show in store for you. I've been sober from alcohol for 5 years now. So I thought I'd do an episode to commemorate such a milestone in my life. To be honest, I might make it a yearly thing because there's loads I could talk about. I've been around alcoholics my entire life, so there's something that could be said about alcoholism as a whole. In the future, the relationship between alcohol and mental illnesses is a rabbit hole I'm sure we'll burrow down someday too, but I just thought I'd go into my own story and why I chose to quit drinking, and some observations I've made along the way, some thoughts I have on alcohol now. But as ever, just do be aware that everything you're about to hear may well just be the ramblings of a madman. Alcohol is a substance that's meant for teenagers, children, and an ingredient in French food. Now, of course, I don't want to encourage any of those things, particularly not French food. But I just say this because this is how I did it. I started drinking when I was a kid, and throughout my teenage years, and although I did drink into my 20s, the kind of my fondest memories are from my teenage years and drinking it, because it's the only time I think that it can actually be considered a cool thing. It's the only time it actually is like a rebellious act. You know, it's something you're not supposed to be doing, and so there's a level of mischief about it, and there's just a sense of adventure. I mean, I'm sure everyone has stories of switching alcohol in a parent's liquor cabinet. I remember me and my friends used to go on like a group of 30 people across the city to find some shady off license to that would serve someone, you know, and we just get this knockoff alcohol, like a cheap cider or some vodka made in Chernobyl. We might have just been drinking plutonium. And we didn't give a shit. You know, that was fine by us, and it was every single week we would do it. Every single week, there'd either be a house party, and if it wasn't a house party, we'd just go, fuck it, let's just go to a field. We'd just go to like Hull Field or TA Field. I remember there's a place called the Crevice is what we named it, and it's just a little like grove, a secluded grove in Calder Stones Park. I don't know what it actually is. It's like where the Boy Scouts go to fucking like jerk each other off or something. But we go to this place and we just like get fucked up. And I actually remember one time I hit my head against a fence in this place because just a fucking man turned up and just started chasing us, if I remember correctly, and you know, I'm just, you know, my feet move faster than my head at times, and I remember I looked back And then, someone shouted something, I turned around, and then the next thing you know, like, I looked, and it was just a fence, and I just fucking got twatted by this fence. So, a lot of fond memories, and it's just like under the moonlight, amongst nature, just completely, just a druid-like situation. A lot of camaraderie, and I think there's a lot of like novelty too. Like this is the first time anyone had kind of done a lot of the things in their life. Everyone was new. You could drink and like drink to pass out, and that's what we would do. It's like drink to get fucked up. And like from all the times I ever got drunk from my life, they're the times which I think like, oh, it was worth doing when you could do that. Just like drinking to the extreme. Like those things I kind of like, or like having one night stands and this kind of stuff. When that's all like a novel experience, I've got no problem with, and yeah, I mean getting fucked up. I'm a man who lives for the anecdote. So none of those memories of alcohol bother me at all. The times where I actually did get quite fucked up. I remember one time on my 21st birthday. It was actually supposed to be a quiet one because I was finishing the book. The first edition of the first book, which I should say a big thank you to all of those that have purchased a copy of the book. I don't speak about it often because I don't want to bug anyone, but of course it is a big help, and yeah, it's like the whole reason for it almost is that we don't ever anticipate having ad revenue, so it's like, all of the funds from that just basically go back into the podcast in one form or another. And if you haven't read it, it is Robert Mugabe's favourite bedtime read, and we are in talks at the minute with Kim Young-gil over an Audible contract. Might get him to do some voiceover work for us. But as I say, like, you are supporting the podcast if you would be so kind to help, and yeah, just a big thank you to everyone who's been doing that. And as people are like, oh, what are you going to do with it? Like, are you going to like go on a tour, or are you going to do like a live meet and greet something? No. What we're going to do is we're going to invade the Seychelles. We're going to form a military, and when we get to 300,000 subscribers, we will invade the Seychelles, because the population of the Seychelles is 100,000 people. So they'll be outnumbered 3-1. So, just know that if you buy a copy of this book, you are financing a lot of great things. And also, this is just a small fraction of that. We will have a military excursion to the Seychelles, and like then build the plantations or whatever. But anyway, this is the time I was writing the first edition of this book. So I was supposed to just like have a quiet one, go to the pub, and then go home. And as with the Right Honourable Gay Ben, and another artist friend of mine called Louis, oh, show us your dick. Louis Jack Prestige. Hope he's doing well. I haven't seen him in a while. Hope he hasn't raped anyone. That'll be an awkward shout out. Yeah, I was in esteemed company, just in intelligentsia, and then my brother came in at closing hours, and he goes, "Oh lad, it's your birthday, I'll buy you a drink." And he gets me a drink. It's like a double whiskey, like triple whiskey. I mean, and I've been drinking for like all day pretty much. And then I just like down it, and he goes, "You're supposed to drink that slowly, It's like, listen, brother, I don't think you know who I am. Don't you think you are aware of who I is? I'm the Usain Bolt of brainwaves. I don't know if you've heard the stories about me in the crevice, but I slowly, it's not in my vocabulary. I'm the man who runs into fences. I run through fences. My feet are faster than my head. So So, anyway, someone then suggested, we should go to town. The thing is, with your birthdays, like, you're kind of not allowed to be a killjoy. So you just have to go along with what everyone else wants. So I was like, okay, I guess we're going to town. And it was one of those nights where, I don't know if you've experienced this, but you just go from like bar to bar to bar to bar. And I don't like this. Just get me a hooker and stay in one place, please. I honestly, I just really want to stay in one place. I mean, you could paint me in blackface and take incriminating photos and post them on social media. Just do it in one place. You can put a pine cone in my urethra whilst giving me the birthday beats. Just do it in one place. You could castrate me in public whilst I wear a Spice Girls t-shirt. Just make sure that venue is set in stone. Because the thing is with this is like, there's no possibility of having a conversation. We're an esteemed company. We wanted to have conversations of the Mycenaean period and compare the laws of Draco and Solon. But here it's like we'd get a drink, and then the second the foam touches our lips, my brother would go, "Okay, boys, drink up. Next place, boys. Next place, boys, drink up." And it's always like you couldn't do anything. And everyone just keeps getting more and more fucked up, but no one has any fun. You just keep going from place to place to place. So we end up in a place called Bumper at like 4:30 in the morning, and I have such little respect for this place. I'm well aware it's not called Bumper, and I've done zero research into finding out what the name of this place now is, because it's Bumper. So I was in Bumper, and my brother's going, I know everyone hear me, and he gets this into like this VIP bit, and then he starts and then he looks at the menu and goes, you've got a fish bowl, and starts talking about this drink called a fish bowl, which is like tropical juices, an exotic beverage inside the abode of fish, a fish bowl, and it was an expensive drink. It was like £20-30. Just when he's going, I'll pay, it'll be worth it. Use the best produce. So he's just like waxing lyrical about this fucking fish bowl, just jizzing his keks over it, and as I say, like it was just a super like militaristic night. So my friends went and drinks every time we was like, go next place, boys, drink up. Like all my friends kept like rolling their eyes. They weren't really enjoying themselves. So I kind of sensed this, and I felt like no one had really spoken for hours. I certainly hadn't. I was just fucked up, and then my brother put this fish bowl onto the table, and he goes, "I've just gone for a slash, boys. I'll be back in a minute." And so I just thought it'd be funny, like with the whole mood of the night, just to the second he went away, just to stand up and go, "I'm gonna piss in it," and obviously I wasn't really gonna piss in it, but I just saw the reaction of my friends, and I'm such a slut for comedy. I thought, okay, I'm going to play into this. So I start standing up, and they're going like, no. And I start like pretending to take my belt off, and they're like slapping their knees and going, And then, okay, I'm going to play into this a little bit more. So I start like pretending to like take my pants down, and they're like banging the tables. It's mayhem, and then I get my cock out, and then at that point I'm thinking, it's kind of too late to go back now. So I piss in this fish bowl, and then when my brother comes back, he just immediately grabs a straw and just starts slurping on it, and his eyes just bulge. And he turns to me and he goes, "Lad, do you use the freshest limes? Taste this. Do you use the freshest limes?" And I was going, "Oh no, man, I'm too drunk. I'm too drunk, man." We're all kicking each other's knees under the table, just laughing. I remember at one point I went for a cigarette, and I got speaking to a homeless guy who was busking, and I said, "Hey man, you should join us. It's my birthday." So we get him into the VIP lounge, and he's just like playing Bob Dylan, Give It the Beans, and I say to him, hey, yeah, you should taste the fish bowl. It uses the freshest lime, so he's then fucking starts sipping on this piss bowl, and his homeless guy, my brother, just like passing it between them all night, just drinking it. And I woke up and thinking that was a weird dream, and then I looked on my phone, and I had a text message from Gay Ben that said, that fish bowl thing you did last night's the funniest thing I've ever seen. And I thought, oh shit, it did happen. And then I had a memory of us leaving the nightclub to get like pizza and a taxi and whatever. And I said, hey, come on, man, we're going. And I looked at my brother, goes, 1 minute, boys. And he grabs this fucking fishbowl with 2 hands and just starts like glugging it back, and it's like dripping down his chin and everything. And what's funny about that is when I see that brother now, I'll see him and I'll go, fishbowl. And he goes, yeah, I've got to provide when it's someone's birthday. Like he thinks it's an expensive drink. And all of my family know about this. Everyone knows but him. So I'm going to tell him about 10 years from now just to ruin his Christmas. But another funny thing with those kind of things is that when you like after that, people go, oh, you're a good drunk. That's what people will say after an experience like that. People just say, you're a good drunk. No one ever goes like, what the fuck, like, you're crazy, never drink. Like that's the one taboo in society that you're not allowed to say. So they'll just go, oh, you're fucking like, you definitely should not drink alcohol. They'll like, you could kill someone and they'll say, I mean, just have 1 or 2. Everything in moderation. I mean, even the French have a glass of wine. Like, they'll just never want to be so. So it's sobriety, something that you just have to kind of figure out for yourself at some point, because nobody will ever tell you to be sober. And also with memories like that too. Like I say, I just don't care. I don't care about memories like that. At least I get an anecdote about it. My biggest regrets with alcohol, in hindsight, are being in nightclubs and just nodding my head. Just when I knew I didn't like it. I never really liked nightclubs. And I remember just like nodding my head, and to just music I hated, and just not having the integrity to say, hey boys, this is shit. This is absolutely wank. Let's just go back to the crevice, because this is terrible. Let's compare the two things, like going to like a house party or something. When you go to a house party, all of the girls would already like it before the fucking party, because you just put all the work in like school all week. It's all of the birds like it, and then it's like you're friends with everyone. Everyone's friendly. You're listening to the music you actually listen to. And you're doing drugs pretty much in the open. Now you're listening to music that nobody likes. It's absolutely shit and way too loud. No one can have a conversation. And there's just psychopaths everywhere. They're just everywhere, just knocking into you. Go, watch where you're going, lad. Just looking for a fight all the time, wherever you go. And no one likes you, especially when you're underage too. It's like, no one likes you. You feel insecure about being there. If you're going to try and get any kind of like remnant of like any like semblance of enjoyment from the night, like you go to take some drugs in a cramped bathroom store while a bouncer bangs on the door, and he'll kick the shit out of you if he gets you. And it's like, every single time I was ever in town, I was just thinking in my head, who is this fun for? What creature is this fun for? And that's what really makes me cringe, is just looking back on those memories of just being, at the bar, and then there's just some terrible music playing, and girls are just going, well, get some shots, and like, come on, let's go and dance, and just not having like enough confidence to just go, no, I don't want to dance. Why? Because I've listened to the Beatles before. I've listened to the Beatles, and I don't want to participate in the devolution of humankind. To give you the short answer. But instead, it's like, I'll go, yeah, and it's like, so I'm bobbing my head. Just bobbing my head, oh yeah, waving my hands to people, like, what? I mean, just, it's so cringe, just so dishonest, just such a lack of courage. And I really think that nightclubs were the downfall for drinking for me, because I remember at that age, when the girls started going to nightclubs, the house parties became shit as well, because they just became like pre-drinks for the nightclubs, and I was too poor. So it's like, if I went to a party, it's like you'd have to pay to go to there, and then pay to get a taxi to town, pay to get it back. It's like, that's a lot of money when you're like 16, 17. So then they became shit. So I just had to start taking LSD, because it's more economical. There's the economical option, which is to take some acid. And it was much more fun. So at that point, I kind of had one foot out of the door. It's like, okay, this isn't sustainable. I was forced into being a moderate drinker. And as I say, I just kind of enjoyed alcohol when it was like, oh, you just get as fucked up as possible. That kind of suited me in my mind. But why I quit drinking completely wasn't really any of that. Like, it was kind of through the moderate times, I guess, because that's how I probably got onto it, was through those moderate times. Like, I remember one cornerstone moment that stands out was I went to a pub, and I was talking to some liberal cuck, and he goes to me, hey, Barack Obama is going to rid the world of nuclear weapons. And I was just laughing at him, going like, shut the fuck up, like that. It's just not going to happen. And anyway, later on in the night, I got drunk, and he brought up again, and he goes, no, I really think Barack Obama is going to rid the world of nuclear weapons. And then I ended up like just going, yeah, maybe. And then the next day when I woke up, this bothered me so fucking much, because I just thought to myself, like, what a spineless shitbag I become when I'm drunk. Like, why the fuck would I concede that? Why would I not care about objective truth anymore? It wasn't like he put any effort in to convince me. It was just like I just suddenly stopped caring about truth. And I was now a worse person drunk than I was sober. And that's kind of what I started to notice. Just like, I wasn't an improvement. It wasn't an improvement on my sober self. I mean, you got to think, why do people drink? It's not the physical effects, because if you want to feel the physical effects of alcohol, spin in a circle. I mean, spin in a circle. In fact, go to your nan's drawer and pull out a dildo and start face fucking your mouth with it, and then get him to punch you in the head if you want to be pedantic about the physical effects. But it's not that it's a personality change. I mean, we were talking about LSD. Alcohol's kind of like a looking glass LSD, where people take LSD to find who they are. Well, people drink alcohol to forget who they are. It's kind of like an alter ego, where they become everyone that they wish they could be, and do the things they wish they could do in a sober state when they're drunk. And that's the kind of motivation for it. But I just started to realise that like the more I'd cultivate myself in a sober state, it would be nullified by the alcohol. So I'd start to like, okay, I want to be more intelligent, so I'd read more books, or try and be a nicer person, more generous person, like a more confident person, try and get rid of other addictions in my life. And every single time I'd get drunk, all the cultivation just gets nullified. And and on the integrity thing, it's like, that's what it is. All inebriation compromises integrity. So it's the same for the cultivation. It's like, it's just compromised. You try and better yourself in these ways, and then you drink alcohol and all the good work just gets completely undone by it. And you know, so that was the thing, because you got to think, again, back to the idea of someone saying, hey, you're a good drunk. It's like, yeah, a good drunk means you're shit at being sober. Because the second you cultivate yourself and go like, okay, I'm actually going to improve myself in all those areas, and, you know, read more and be more generous and be more funny and be more confident, these kind of things, is like, you make the need for drinking alcohol completely redundant. You know, and that's what happened. Basically, I just started to realise I prefer who I am as a sober person than who I am when I become drunk. And but you know, as the natural heir to Attenborough, I did spend the first couple of years of my sobriety around drunk people, and the first thing they'll say to you is, oh well, as long as you're not one of those sober people. It's like, well, one of those sober people with eyeballs. One of those sober people with eyeballs. Because, I mean, just the level of delusion you will witness, just absolutely delusional people, just out from every fucking quarter, just... It's incredible, and I mean, I think some of them are trying to like pursue a dream-like state. You know, the ones that are on the pull. That's you see people. Everyone's on the pull. There's something to be said about that. But they, it kind of reminds me of like a dream. Like, I don't know if you ever had one of those dreams before where you invent someone in your head that doesn't really exist, and then you have like this dream time fling with them. It's really incredible because you've just invented them in your head. They don't exist. There's no one remotely like them, but there's kind of like a wit and a charm. It's a Shakespearean dialogue in your dream. And, you know, you end up canoodling together. Oh, that's really incredible. I don't know what's actually happening when that's going on. You know, maybe there's just an alien just yanking you off. You know, trying to get some, make a clone in Astra Reticuli, or maybe some succubus is just going with its forked tongue, just caressing your shaft like chopsticks to nigiri. You know, with its just fingering you with its 7-inch fingernail. And wake up, oh, why's my ass bleeding? You know, it's kind of like that. But with this, it's a similar thing, I think, because they want to be taken out of like to have no control. That's what they want. They want to just be on autopilot, and then someone just comes into the night and then starts like charming them, and they are really like, you know, wooed by their suavity. But that's not what happens, because when you're sober around it and you're around these people, it's like a guy's just going, you look fucking beautiful, you girl. And you really think so? You know, and she looks like she has a fucking like comb in her eye. She's got a lazy eye. She's a 1, he's a 2. That's the setup here. And, you know, every time she goes to take a drink, she's just like pouring it on her shoulder. And we'll return to those in a minute, because that's the dream. That's the dream. Their nightmare is around me. The nightmare is around me. We've heard a little from the delusional dreamers, but it's like the fucking dangerous people just wielding all sorts of fucking ammunition. You know, just free range, just roaming around. Fucking Roman Polanski, and then just fucking like depressed people, like people just randomly crying, just people randomly crying, and fucking dumb people interrupting you. There's no possible conversation. Like, they either be like, oh well, just have some conversation. There's no conversation. Everyone's in their own little world, and they're just interrupting everyone. There's no conversation. It's dumb people, and the demonic music. For the music, I didn't have the bravery to stand up to in my youth. It's back again. You know, fucking, I got a chicken, and just the last bastion of belligerence, just with his pout in his lips, and he's just like wagging his finger and nodding his head and saying, "Why in my ear? The muscle Darth, a cuckoo pretty." Like, it's so terrible, and this time I'm not dancing. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid to say it. You know, I just be there and listening to conversations. That's all you can kind of do in that situation. Just don't listening to people, and then, you know, fucking the degenerates are getting off with each other. And
I want you to think of me.
Like, you know, I mean, it's completely. I don't want to accuse people of being in the dark arts here, but I think that you're in the cult of Dionysus. It certainly feels that way in your company, you know. And that's the thing with the whole, like, as long as you're one of those people, it's very cult, like, because no one has any confidence in no one has any confidence in what they're doing. So it's like all of the men will like, oh please, just one please, like, always trying to peddle their poison constantly. And there's like some just loose cannon women who will be like, they'll equate everything to fun. You know, let's just have fun. I just want to have fun. Like, you know, so now because you're not participating, it's like, oh,
You're bored.
it's like, yeah, you're a whore. And this is the thing. So we're talking about with the kind of cult-like mentality. It reminds me of when I was like, when I drunk myself, and there'll be someone and they'll turn it to a party, and they'll say they can't drink because they have work or whatever, and they will say, oh, it's shipping around drunk people when you're sober, and no one has a problem with that, because, like, oh yeah, absolutely, everyone already knows that's the case. But then it reminds me when I was like 16, when I would say there are shit and pointless jobs, which I stand by. I've said on the podcast before, there are shit and pointless jobs. But you see, at that age, when I was 16, I was just like seeing the Zeitgeist addendum and Jack Fresco and Peter Joseph and all them quags. So when I say that, people go, "Oh, fuck you! You never worked a real job. How can you say that?" So then when like, I eventually work some of those shit and pointless jobs, then the first thing that ever happened when I was there is someone just said, like, "How pointless is this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah," and that's the thing, you can say it for as long as you're a part of it. So for like the same thing for a guy who drinks, but then it's like, "Oh, I can't drink tonight," and shipping around, you know, drunk people when you're sober. Everyone agrees with it, but they don't like the sober person. You know, because the difference with those two things is the first guy is like, his problem is that he's not drunk. That he's just if only I could be a part of one of you. You know, I could be in the club with you in the cult. But you know, with a sober person, it's like, oh no, I'm not even a part of you, and you're all fucking retarded. You know, and that's the but I won't talk about it too much, because I'll talk about it. It deserves its own episode, but this is generational alcoholism. This is like the reason for this, because there's just generations of alcoholics in our society, and I say, like, an alcoholic, just to try and sum it up in like a sentence for us, it's like, an alcoholic is just a caricature of cynicism, where everything is a problem in the world, but not the drinking. When the reality is that the world's not so bad, that the biggest problem is their drinking, and they'll ostracize anyone who points that out to them. And I say, because of this generational alcoholism in our culture, just generations of alcoholics, this is why you have this kind of cult-like behaviour, and they'll go, "Oh, well, you gotta, like, no sober person's allowed to say anything," you know, as if like a drunk person will have a better analysis on what alcohol is doing to people compared to what a sober person will. It's like, of course, a sober person can judge it better than anyone, but you know, you're not allowed. No sober people, and this is kind of like one of my big problems with it, because as a result of this, with this cult-like mentality, with it being generational, is that they end up having like a monopoly on the conversation of what alcohol is, you know, and they're the worst equipped people to do that, because all it results in is just delusional outlooks in the world. Like, I'm not pro prohibition. I'm pro free will. I have many friends who are who like drink alcohol, and they'll testify. I've never told anyone to not drink alcohol. I never would. I'm sure you'll be 100% better off if you quit. And if you're not, then again, that's the problem. Is that the good drunk is a shit sober. So you should be trying to make yourself better in your sober state, cultivate yourself, make yourself better. But I'm not going to tell anyone not to do it. What I really want is just to make you a second-class citizen. This is my gripe with the grape guzzlers, is that you think we're equal and we're not. It's very clear we're not. And and you also have a monopoly on the dialogue of alcohol. I mean, I remember when I was like 10, we used to do a thing called nighters, where me and my brothers would say to our parents we're staying at a friend's house, and they would say they're staying at our house. Everyone would say we're staying at different houses, and then we'd go to the top of my road. There was a bank, and it's a yoga studio now, hashtag gentrification. But in the past, we would climb to the top of the bank, because it was built up in layers. You can't do it now because it's like they've built like a steam room on one of them little rooms where like yogis go to a circle jerk or whatever. But we used to be able to get a wheelie bin, and you'd jump on that and then go into the first layer. Then the older lads would boost us to the next layer, then we'd climb to the next layer, and then we'll all be on the bank roof. I remember one time actually my next door neighbour brought his air rifle and started trying to shoot at cars. So yeah, but usually it was fucking boring. Like, we wouldn't do anything. We'd just go up there and get drunk, and then it would be freezing. So we'd have to take it in shifts, going down and walking around the area. So it was like every hour or two, in like a group of 3, we'd climb back down and just start walking around the area. And we were outside the Brook House one time, like a pub, and it was a meatball, and meatball in typical meatball fashion, high on Putin's plutonium, just starts going, "Hey, show us your tits," to some random woman, and she was about 30 years old, and she just like started showing us her tits. And I just want to say, how unacceptable is that? How unacceptable is it? And it's also obviously funny because she woke up and she's like, "Oh fuck, I think I showed my tits to some 10-year-old boys last night." I just can't tell anyone about that. But it's not accepted in a sober world. In a sober world, you're like, "Oh, that woman's mentally ill," and like lock her away. That's not okay. And okay, that might be a bit of a rare example, but it's really not. This happens. Okay, that specific thing it might be, but it's like this kind of just wacky behaviour. You go to any major city throughout the country, and you'll find girls like pissing in the streets, being sick, people fighting. It's like, why is this acceptable? And you know what it is? It's drunk privilege. You have drunk privilege. And I just want to check your drunk privilege, like why is this acceptable? There's like just this complete absolvement of responsibility, where they're allowed to be something, where complete impunity, and it's even the same. Not just with the drunkenness, it's like even their hangover. Like someone will be hungover, and then they'll just be an absolute tit, just an absolute dickhead to everyone. And it's like, I just wonder, like sometimes fantasize, like what if someone just like knocked this person out? What if someone just going, "Nah, you know what, I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm just going to actually do a roundhouse kick and just put you to sleep." And that's the thing, it's all predicated upon, both behaviours, whether they're hungover, whether they're drunk, is upon sober people tolerating it. And again, this kind of like is a real glimpse into the the kind of knowledge everyone knows with the cult, and why they don't like sober people, because it's like every bit of their fun is dependent upon sober people. That's why they don't want any sober people, because they're like, oh, well, the second people are like, hey, that's not okay, and we're actually going to judge you the same as we would anyone else. The party pretty much fucking stops at that point. It's but yeah, it's just nonsense. Because the other thing is just like, it's nonsense. We're not the same. Like, I mean, imagine trying to employ someone, and they did a job for you, and they turn up drunk. Would you accept that? Imagine if you were given birth and the father of your child turned up drunk. Would that be okay? I mean, it certainly wouldn't be okay if the doctor was drunk in that moment. You can't drive when you're drunk. You can't walk in a straight line when you're drunk. You can't talk properly when you're drunk. You can't put food in your mouth without spilling it on yourself when you're drunk. You've rendered yourself in a childlike state. You are as useless as a child. So we all know this is the case. So when we know that, it's like, why would there be any kind of like special privileges granted to this? Because you're not a child. It's like, you're not a child. You're just completely infantilized though by alcohol. And that's the other thing. We're talking about this like delusional narratives that come about as a result of this. Where they'll go like, oh, it's a manly thing. It's like, how the fuck is it a manly thing? If you've rendered yourself in a childlike state, you cannot be a child and a man. Ask MJ. You know what I mean? You can't do that. It's not possible. Like, what drinking alcohol really is an absolvement of all responsibilities. So this is like what their metric of manhood is it is how much can you drink, instead of hey, how good of a father are you, how good and present of a father are you. Find me the good and present father that's also in the pub, not with the kids. The two things are not compatible. You can't be a drunk and be a good and present father. It's simply not possible. So in the sober world, where manhood, the metric of manhood is how good of a father are you. You're not a man. You really can't be a man in this situation. And I just think it's like, oh, it's manly to do something that requires no courage. Like, it doesn't require any courage for you to drink. It requires courage for you to stop. Really, to stop requires courage. It doesn't require any courage to drink. It's the norm that's peddled to people, and it's just so ingrained in our society right now. You can have like Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage like doing political campaigns with a pint of beer and going, I'm a man, I drink a pint. It's like this sycophantic lizards just going along with it. Yeah, I want to vote for them, the man's man. It's so fucking retarded, just on every level. And also, it's not manly. It's not only because you're a child, but it's vaginal. Like, take a body positivity and fat shaming and shit like that. That's a vaginal venture. And the psychology behind it is that women compare themselves to everything, and in resentment of that fact, they say compare nothing. And it's in principle, it's fine. You go, okay, well, some fatty's going to kill themselves because someone says some mean words. Like, no one wants that. No one wants someone who's obese to kill themselves because they feel so bad about themselves. But the thing where this gets wacky is that if you have an obese and dying person that now becomes fit and healthy, you have to go along with the idea like that's not an improvement, because I said the vaginal mind, it doesn't compare. If you don't compare, you can't cultivate. So the whole point is like, let's stagnate in our deficiencies. Let's not improve. Let's stagnate in our deficiencies. And that is a drunk person. That's exactly the same as a drunk person. It's someone who's not cultivated themselves in a sober state, because the second you cultivate yourself in a sober state, you go, oh, I've made the need for drinking alcohol completely redundant, you know? And then after that, all you're left with is like, hey, the only reason to really drink alcohol is to have experiences. Which brings me back to my initial point. It's like, why haven't you done all of these experiences? Like when there's a novelty to it, like, oh, I've never had a one night stand, I've never like drunk till I passed out or whatever. It's like, kind of makes sense. When you're an adult, how can you be that much of a psychopath to just go like, oh, there's still more experiences to have, instead of going, oh, I've actually done all the things you can do with alcohol, you know? And then the whole kind of metric of manhood is like, oh, how much alcohol can I drink? It's like, yeah, that was my life when I was 14. And you speak to the same people. It's like every alcohol drink episode to conclude now is a teenager. You know, that's what they're trying to relive, is their teenage years. And they're like, oh yeah, I mean, what about me mates? What about me mates? And it's like, look, if you have more than 5 friends and you're over the age of 30, you need an intervention, because you're not ambitious enough and your friends are not ambitious enough, you know. And I just think as well on the manly thing, it's like, look at the times that we live in this planet, you know. Like, what do you want to do with your life? You know, do you want to conquer the world? Do you want to do the things you said you were going to do? Do you want to, do you want to do the chores you have ahead of you? You know, because you're not going to do it if you're getting drunk. So again, it's just this ambitious. It's being ambitious, and that's the thing. Like now in a sober state, it's like, hey, do you want to go for a stroll in nature? We can go for a stroll in nature. You know, that's basically what I'm coming to here is, I'm done with alcohol drinks. I did it for a couple of years. Well, I could go along with it still. Now it's like, nah, I don't want to hang out with any fucking drunk person. I don't want to be around drunk people. I'm done with it. And, you know, if I'm hanging out with friends, like, okay, we'll fucking go for a stroll amongst nature. You know, come back to the crib, put on some Django Reinhardt, break out the Battenberg, munch some Nightshade. If at any point someone says to me, hey Pab, do you want to go to a pub? I just think, this is how you should really phrase that question is, do you want to talk to a 50-year-old man wearing a Strokes t-shirt? That's what you're really asking me. And the answer's no.
The jelly junkie, he grins like a monkey, cause his spunky funkiness will never cease. But the cynic, he's a killer cute winner. But I don't care what you say, I'm finding my way to peace.
Yo, I just want to begin by saying, fuck HelloFresh. I mean, this is a fashion trend for the simpleton. You know, it's really a testament to the power of advertisement and the simple-mindedness of the masses. You know, this is Edward Benet's wet dream come to fruition. I've had 3 people in the last week recommend this shit to me, and people I'd otherwise respect, because you've got to think about who's into this, this kind of, because it is just a fashion trend, and so I think it's mostly old women. I believe in the old adage of men age like wine, women age like milk. And it's because they want to be perpetual teenagers. They've got really FOMO is the word. They've got a fear of missing out on the big things. So speaking of old women, I was at my mum's house, and she was into HelloFresh, and she said, "Oh, you will help yourself. You can have some HelloFresh," that she was on board with, and so I open up these fucking like paper bags. And I look inside, and there's a shallot, like a sachet of turmeric, and some couscous, and everyone's raving on about it. It's like, hey, that's the packed lunch of a Kurdistani refugee. What is happening? People going on like it's the the greatest thing in the world, and what's really aggravating about all of this is that I'm not entrepreneurial. I'm not the world's greatest businessman, and in fact, you might think this is might be burning some bridges here. I do want to say, if HelloFresh want to sponsor the podcast, I'll of course nuke this entire episode. We can do overdubs and make all this about Deliveroo. Don't worry about that, but it seems like everyone has a sponsor now. I saw a video; it's like 1,000 views, and a guy's like, "Don't forget on Squarespace the promo code." Like, is anyone not an advert? Is anyone not an advert anymore? But yeah, if they do want to sponsor the podcast, don't think don't think I won't go back and everything I'm saying, but imagine if this was on Dragon's Den and I suggested this, and I said, okay, well, the big idea is we're going to buy people's shopping for them. Oh, what, you mean like the shopping they can do themselves? Yeah, but wait a second. We're not just going to do that. We're going to we're going to give them recipes. Oh, so you've never heard of the internet? Because every recipe you can imagine is already on the internet. So your big idea is you're going to buy food that people can already buy themselves and give them a recipe which they can already get by themselves. And this must have been the reaction of every single person that this company ever suggested their idea to. Must have been the reaction. But what HelloFresh must have said at some point is, hey, don't underestimate how retarded people are. That's what it must have said. He said, no, we're gonna cater this product to retarded people. That's what they must have said. There's people who can't cook in the world, and they're our target audience. There are people who are completely incapacitated, and they don't want to go outside, and that is who we are going to market this to, and they can't cook at all. And what we'll really do is we'll say to them, "Oh, it's because you're so busy." That's what it is. It's you're so busy that that's why this is for people on the go. That's what because this is like a cult like psychology, like a cult tactic is to tell people like, oh no, like this is a really cool thing. This is just because you're one of those special hard-working people. Other people wouldn't understand, but we know because we just have enough time to be able to do it. So that will like give someone like an ego trip, a stroke the ego. Yeah, I'm one of those people. I don't have enough time. That's right. And they'll go along with it. It's insane. Like I'm critical of fast food. like I say, if you want to sponsor the podcast, HelloFresh, then we will just make all of this about Deliveroo. And I think that fucking like chicken shops are just harbouring ISIS members and planning a white genocide. But at least you don't have to do anything. At least they're actually providing a product. This reminds me of self-service. If ever I'm in a supermarket and the self-service tills are open, I stay stationary and I turn to the people behind me and I go, do you want to fucking use that shit? Because I'm not going to use it. I never use self-service because I understand that used to be a person. Well, not the machine, but like, there's not fucking Edward Scissorhands, but that's someone's job. It's like, you're making me do someone's job and then acting like it's some kind of fucking empowerment. No, I'm not going to fucking use it. And it's the same thing here with this. It's like, hey, I'm going to pay for something and they're not going to cook it for me. I get to cook it for myself. It's like, what a fucking masochist you are. You are a masochist consumer. That's the only people this could be catered to. Masochist consumers. And like I say, it's not like they say, okay, well, there are people who can't cook in the world, there are people who can't go out and buy the food. It's like, yeah, cripples, the actual like incapacity. Like, if this was like a charity, where they say, oh, okay, we're going to market it as a charity because there's people who can't quite do things. It's like, but they're not. They're marketing it to everybody because now you're a cripple. Now you can't cook because you're 5 years old and you can't do your own shopping because you're 5 years old. That is the plan here, and you're going along with it, going, really great advancement. I love HelloFresh. I'm on that bandwagon. And the thing is, it's not like it would make more sense if it was an elitist endeavor. Like they said, hey, we're going to get you shit that you can't even find in supermarkets. We're going to get you caviar. We're going to get you like fancy truffles or lobster, and it's Michelin star recipes. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is they're prepping you for a famine. That's what it actually is. They're prepping you for a famine. And I mean, the fucking arrogance of all of this too. They go, oh, it takes 30 minutes. It's like, bitch, don't assume you know how long it takes for me to cut an onion. Don't think you know me. Maybe it takes me 20 minutes to cut an onion. Did you consider that? No. Well, maybe that's the case. And another thing with onions too, actually, is like, they're not even meant for human consumption. I'm fully on board with the Ayurvedic diet when it comes to onions, because if you look at a person trying to cut an onion, they'll be like crying and go, fuck, and it really has a real visceral reaction to an onion. And then if you like put some food in a dog's bowl or a cat's bowl or something, and it pushed its face towards it and moved back, you go, oh, it just doesn't like it. And you take it away. Whereas humans have that reaction, but they just they'll go, oh, just fucking put a spoon in my mouth now. Just put a spoon in my mouth, and they persevere. And then after all of that, madness, we eat it. That's it. We just persevere and then eat it. But even after your body clearly rejects it, yeah. But anyway, fucking, I didn't even eat the HelloFresh in protest of like, oh, you can cook for yourself. In protest of that, I made a peanut butter and prune sandwich. They don't even go together. It was fucking delicious, by the way. They should go together, but that's not even a thing. That's not even a thing. Peanut butter and prune sandwich. And I said, fuck it, I'll just eat that. I'll eat that instead, because I'm not participating in this, fucking cuisine-based cuckoldery.
Though I'm not great at introductions, while the pendulum swings slow, I will swallow my reluctance, and so here I go, here I go, here I go, here I go, here I go. What's your name? What's your number? Together we can conquer this rock. If I put 2 fucking fingers inside of your pussy and 2 in your eyes, they'd call it the Spock. I would have the whole the rough seas tremble below. We could live long and prosper, baby, with my fucking hello. And then your eyes would say, I hope it was a greater pleasure knowing me as it will be knowing you.
Now the time has come to listen to the madness of the masses. If you'd ever like to contribute to this part of the podcast in future episodes, send in your links and twinks, bots and thoughts, haves and have-nots, wives, knives, chives, or perhaps just some questions and thoughts to pabspabulum@gmail.com, and follow me across all social media at pabthecrab. Acciones. I've been sober for 25 years now. Without a doubt, the best decision I've made in my life. No regrets. Well, fuck me, man. 25 years is quite a stint there, so congratulations. I mean, complete admiration. I do hope to reach those numbers myself someday. Yeah, and yeah, this is the most common response you'll hear when someone's quit drinking, especially for so long. No one quits drinking for this long and then goes, "Oh, I wish a few years I was shit-faced." But you know, everyone says, yeah, it's the best thing, and I'm in the same boat. Also, it's probably the best decision of my life, because you have so much more money and then so much more time, and in that time you take up so many new interests that you wouldn't have done if you were just going to pubs all the time. So, you know, yeah, keep going. Let's make it 26, 27, 28 years. Keep going, man. And again, congratulations. I've thought about quitting alcohol before, but it's not possible to get women if I don't go to bars. Bullshit. This simply isn't true, my friend. This is some self-deception. This is an excuse that's going on. Alcohol is a crutch for confidence. That's why they call it Dutch courage. And when you become dependent upon this courage, when you don't cultivate courage in a sober state, when you don't cultivate confidence in a sober state, and then the next time you need to exhibit confidence in your life, you're less likely to do so. You'll become more reclusive in your confidence, and that's what you'll witness. Everyone becomes so silent and introverted and insecure, and then they're suddenly confident when they're drunk, and that's why they think there's an extra impetus to be drunk, because then they can be this alter ego they've given themselves, rather than be that always, rather than just always have that confidence within themselves, to be able to talk to women anywhere. But you see, it's a bridge you're going to have to cross anyway, because if you were to get into a relationship with a girl, at some point, like unless you maintain your entire relationship in a drunken state, she will figure out that you don't have that confidence. You don't have the confidence to talk to, and that's one of the most. It's just innately repulsive to women, an insecure man, an unconfident man. So you need to be confident enough to talk to women anywhere. You know, that's something that you have to. I have a story. I remember I was maybe like 17, and I was living with my brothers. One of my brothers said, "Hey, there's a couple of girls that are here." One of them was 16. So I was 17, but I think I was like 2 school years, so it felt like there's a bit of a distance. I remember thinking, this is insanely easy to get off with this girl, because I wasn't even trying to do anything. I was just like, okay, free alcohol, I'll partake. And then next thing you know, she's kind of like all over me. Head to the boudoir. And I don't know if you noticed, but I am Cancerian. It's where the crab of Pab the Crab comes from. So, 69 and ensued, staying true to my zodiac. And anyway, in the throes of passion, she then sits on my dick for a couple of seconds. She's a virgin, a Catholic girl. She puts my dick inside of her pussy for a couple of seconds, and then she starts like to begin to run, and she goes, "Oh no, condom," and there was no condom, so it's just like, well, it's not going to happen. could have probably, you know, pushed more. Could have took a virginity or whatever. But you know, I'm a saintly man. So you know, of course, I just put a deluge of splooge all over her cheekbones, just sully the cheekbones. And then, and I'm not saying any of this to be braggadocious. There's a purpose to this. I saw her a week later, both those girls at the bus stop. And in my head, I was just thinking, because she was a beautiful girl, got along fine with her. She easily could have been my girlfriend or something. And in my mind, I'm just saying, like, ask for a number. Why don't you just ask for a number? And that's all I'm thinking in my head. And the words just aren't coming out. And then I didn't end up asking for a number. My brother fell out with the other girl, and I never saw my one ever again. You know, it was not to cry. I honestly don't even know her name. Never knew her name. But the reason I tell you that is it's really dangerous for men and women to meet your potential partners in a drunken state, because it's not who they really are. You know, like that girl was basically seduced by someone who even after she'd like sucked the dick of wasn't even confident enough to ask for her name or number even after she'd done it, which is not like if she'd been told that from the beginning, like, hey, would you want to do that to a guy who's so insecure, such an insecure wreck as myself? Like, would you do that to? Like, ugh, no, that sounds disastrous. But yet you'll do it because people are the opposite of who they really are when they're drunk. So. And also, you know, she could have lost her virginity, so I'm not counting that one. And I could have went through it with her further if I ever wanted to. As you know, some people lose their virginities. I fucking abortions. I mean, you know, the murder of your own offspring. That's almost entirely based upon alcohol, I think. You know, I'd say a good 90+% of abortions are just fucking from drunkenness. You know, because that's the thing for the women's side. I think we're talking about being exonerated from things with the drunk privilege. It's really the exonerating the hoe behaviour. Yeah, they're all sluts that accept it. That's what I think of with this. But yeah, with women, it's always like sexual things. I mean, I remember I was looking for some videos to illustrate some points for this video, for this episode, and a lot of them I couldn't show you. I went on a drunk thread to go, maybe I can find some funny drunk stuff. I can show you because it's all pornographic. It's all pornographic. You know, I saw a girl drinking out of a urinal at one point. Another girl, like, all them flashing the tits all the time. I saw another one literally getting DP'd. I'm not talking drunk privileged. You know, just literally double penetrated by a couple of strangers while their friends film it, and they're going, Rachel's crazy. It's just like laughing. You know, those are the kind of things that are happening, and yeah, so it's not the fucking the people you think you're meeting, and that's kind of ridiculous. So when they're being this like kind of hoe behaviour that they want you to overlook in society, it's like, it's not the best quality women who are drunk. There's many sober women in society, and they're better quality women than the drunk ones, and they exist everywhere. So you should have the confidence to just, you know, be able to approach those girls that you like, the higher quality women, with, you know, confidence and politeness, and, you know, you can be with those girls. It'd be a much better outcome rather than finding girls at a bar and then either they figure out like, oh, you're not who they thought you were when you first met, or you don't think they're the same. You know, they have all kinds of scars from, like, I mean, if you think about it, like, would you want to be with a girl who is sober, or girls who are like, oh yeah, I just woke up in a random guy's bed, but who hasn't done that? And they're all just like scarred by these fucking you know, one night stand experiences. You know, they're lower quality women that you're meeting in bars anyway. So yeah, I'd say it's kind of, it's bullshit. You gotta cultivate the confidence to be able to approach women anywhere, and then, you know, you'll understand how necessary it is to rely on alcohol as a crutch. I hit rock bottom 12 years ago, lost my wife and kids and decided to get my life together and quit. Relapsed back in fall, but now I'm trying to live a sober life again day by day. I would say that AA meetings helped me a lot as I relapsed when I was moving town and hadn't found one. What are your thoughts on AA? Well, let me first just address the most important part of that question, which is he meant autumn. When he said fall, he meant autumn. For those of us who actually speak English. But the leaves fall, it's fall. Yeah, it's autumn. Come on, let's be sensible here. But to be honest, I've got no experience myself with AA. Because I didn't quit when I was at rock bottom. It's not that I never experienced that. I'd say I've had moments of being rock bottom when I was in my teenage years or early 20s. But I say after that I kind of became a moderate drinker, and I find that it's easier for the moderate drinkers who quit to remain sober than those who were kind of forced into quitting by the drinking. And I say addicts have a tendency to get into relationships of dependency anyway. So I think that's kind of what's happening there with the AA stuff. Like that's a real fixture within your life. And then so when it's taken away, you might feel disempowered by that and relapse as a result of it. I can see the logic within that. But yeah, as I say, I don't have any experience with AA, but I've heard nothing but good things about it from recovering addicts. And I'm sorry to hear about those things. It sounds fucking horrific, man. I'm glad you're back on the sober wagon again, and I hope you got your family back together. And it's I know it's at least commendable that you recognise there's a problem and then you've made steps to address it. Nobody's perfect, and overcoming addiction sometimes can be a bit of a roller coaster affair. And there's also no shame in feeling the need to bolster your resilience by finding a community of people that are in the same battle as you are. Millions of people have been helped by things like AA. So I'm sure there's a lot of people get out of it, and perhaps you can hold each other accountable and stuff like that. So keep taking it day by day, brother. And you can send me a message if there's ever a problem with any one of your meetings. I'll do what I can to help you stay on track. But I'm sure you have the inner strength to make it through. Never stop trying to cultivate that. Don't underestimate the importance of your own inner strength. We got another question, which is, what do you think happens when you die? And you see, I'm not going to answer this one, actually, if you don't mind, Petal, because it's just too complex, and I think I'm starting to learn from my mistakes. You see, this chap wrote in a question last week about what do I think is going to happen in the next 100 years in the future. Great question, as is this one. But I kind of shot myself in the foot by answering it. You see, there's such complex questions that I kind of have 15 minutes worth of information in my head to try to get out. But then I have to then condense all of that to about 20 minutes. And then especially if we're trying to reduce the time of the episodes, it makes it difficult. And then I fumble over myself so much because I'm going from one thing to another thing to another thing. So I don't express myself as I'd want to express it for you. So it's expressed unsatisfactorily for you and me also. And being mischaracterized is one of my biggest pet peeves. I mean, this is my life from like 18 to maybe 23. I'd be walking down a road in my neighbourhood. I'd bump into a guy and he'd go, "Oh, I heard about you." And I'd go, "What the fuck did you hear?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, you in the chocolate rolls." What the fuck are you talking about, chocolate rolls? Yeah, your dad yesterday in the pub, he was fuming. You and those chocolate rolls. Oh, stay out of his way if I was you. And it's like, there's no chocolate rolls, So going back and forth about alcoholics being a caricature of cynicism, so they have to complain about everything in the world. But if they have nothing to complain about, they'll literally just make shit up because they are the person who just complains each time in the pub, and so that's what happens. But then you become like the victim in all of it. You get embroiled in it, and they just start telling lies around you. So I keep meeting people. It was just a disaster. Feels like I meet someone and they're like, "Oh, you're taking my money, taxpayers' money," and you just construct a person who you're not. At that time, like, I hadn't been on the doll since I was like 19, but yet everyone I would meet kept like talking about it. It's like they just keep telling like each other a version of who I am in a drunken state, and then they just believe that. And there's also another frustration that they never then meet you and go, "Oh, you see, I've heard everything I've heard about you is clearly a lie, and now I've heard you from the horse's mouth. Nice to meet you." They have a raised eyebrow and go, "Yeah, don't know about that. It's not what I heard." They'll trust the people who are in the pub every single night, rather than the person who's not in the pub and is sober, even though that's the person themselves. Like no one really knows anything about me. Like no one who tells something about me. Like, what's my favourite meal? Can you tell people what my favourite meal is? No, because they don't know who I am. So it's a real pet peeve. I'm gonna do a play about that, actually. I don't know if I should mention this because it's very embryonic and I only write it sporadically at the moment. But called Truth's Tribulations. It's a Cassandra-like character. Cassandra is like a Trojan priestess in Greek mythology that was cursed with only being able to tell the truth, truthful prophecies, but have no one believe her. So it's kind of a character like that, but it's kind of set in drinking culture in a pub where everyone just goes like, "Oh, I heard about you." I said, basically my life from 18 to 23, and everyone only believing what the drunk people tell each other rather than the reality. It is a comedy. It will be a comedy. But anyway, I'm getting off track. The point is, that's one of my biggest fucking pet peeves. But here I'm mischaracterizing myself. Like, there's no one to blame but me in all of this when I try to answer a question that's just too complex, and then I do a shit job at answering it. Because say you brought up the future thing last week, so I can go like, "Oh, okay, well, I'll talk about immigration." But if I talk about immigration, it's really, I could go into like 5 hours about all the different nuances. I would like to make counterpoints to everything I'm saying, but I can't do that. Because it's like, that's just gonna now be a couple of minutes, and I've got to talk about like lockdowns, and I've got to talk about the World Economic Forum, the Rothschilds, Klaus Schwab. Like, we could go into all of those things. As long as I got a lot of information, got like an hour's worth of information for all of it. Neo-Nazis, Jewish supremacists, climate change, like whatever it would be. We could go into all those things. They might be relevant factors at play for the future. Tech, whatever it would be. But it's like, I can't express all of that within 20 minutes. So then if someone tunes in and they just hear that couple of minutes of me talking about any one of those things, which I've already been conditioned to have an emotional reaction to anyway, then they will just mischaracterize me. But again, it's my fault because I'm trying to answer something that's really, I should just go, "That's too complex, I'll elaborate further." Because that's the other thing that you think people might go like, "Oh, well, all those things I just mentioned," someone might write in someday and go, "Oh, that's interesting, can you elaborate on it?" But they don't. We will conquer the world someday, but as it stands, we're not that big of a podcast for people to care. So they just tune in, and then they might tune out if they hear any of those things. And another thing to break the fourth wall a little bit more. Like, often we record this part of the podcast last minute, so it's difficult to find things to illustrate my point with, like pictures or videos or whatever. So I remember I told you about swastikas being a universal symbol and predominantly a European symbol. I can tell you with absolute confidence because I know I can just show you the proof, and it's indisputable. So at that point, it's like you either have to accept reality or put your head in the sand. And of course, there's still going to be people who put their head in the sand anyway, but I'm more confident with that. Whereas for this part of the podcast, I'd like to illustrate my point, as again, especially with some of those like real big points, that you know, people have to be convinced by. They need to see the proof, and I can't provide it. Sometimes in this part of the podcast, so I end up just shooting myself in the foot, really, because you know it'll just turn people off. If they tune in for a couple of minutes, they'll think I'm someone I'm not, and again, it's all down to myself, because you know, like I could even answer your question of what do I think happens when you die, because well, you return to the light, but then everyone goes, what the fuck's the light? You know, where does it come from? Where does it go? Cotton Eye Joe. So I might as well just say, well, I'm going to do an episode on a new rule. If your question is too good, you win an episode. So that's what you've done here. You've won yourself an episode. I'm going to do one on the afterlife. We'll go into heaven and hell and reincarnation and the light and all the rest of it. Do you have any advice on overcoming an addiction? As I said before, I think it was helpful that I never quit alcohol when I was at rock bottom, but really left when I was just a moderate drinker. So if that's possible, you know, if you do to incrementally get out the door, could be useful for that. But I have another addiction. You know, the hardest addiction to overcome for me is cigarettes. There's a Mark Twain quote which says something like, cigarettes are the easiest thing in the world to quit. I should know, I've done it 1,000 times. And that is my life. I epitomise that quote. I mean, I read The Story of My Life by Giacomo Casanova. It was just such a bad influence on me, because I was reading it, and it's, you know, it led to a lot of cavalier romanticism within my life. Because, this is going to make a good anecdote. It's going to make a good story. And one of the things he was talking about was like, it's ungentlemanly if someone's smoking to not smoke yourself. And I kind of took that on board also. And it took me years to realise I'm way too much of an addict to be able to do that. So maybe like once a year, a couple of times a year, I'll see a friend and they'll offer a cigarette. I go, of course, it'll be ungentlemanly and impolite if I refuse this cigarette. And then I end up smoking it. And then like a week later, I'm like rooting through people's coats, like looking for cigarettes. Like, now I would be terrible if I fucking smoked like crack or took heroin or something. You know, it would be a real disaster. But what's been useful for me when in the times when I'm like, okay, well now I've got to quit again, is a mantra. A mantra. The most recent time I quit smoking, I just started saying weak will, weak mind. Weak will, weak mind. Every time I got the craving to smoke, I'll just go weak will, weak mind. And it only really works if it means something to you. But, you know, I think it would mean something to a lot of people. You don't want to consider yourself to have a weak will or a weak mind. But ultimately, succumbing to the addiction is that, you know, you're allowing the weakest part of yourself to have its way with you. You know, and you're not given an opposing. You're not opposing it in any way with the rest of your thoughts. Whereas the mantra can kind of introduce itself, give itself as an alternative option, and go, maybe hold back on that a minute there, Squire. Hi King, I don't drink either, but for me it is a cultural thing rather than becoming sober. I'm a Muslim from Indonesia. I went to a pub once though and I thought it was so scary. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on pubs and if you've been back since becoming sober. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what this whole episode's kind of been about, but of course, y'all wouldn't have known that. I just said it was going to be an episode on sobriety, but actually, I went to a pub again a couple of nights ago. Got embroiled in a family thing, and it would have been rude for me to leave prematurely, so I ended up having to go to a pub with him. And as I said before, I am Attenborough's natural heir, so I did make some fresh observations as it goes, and one of them is that pubs fucking stink of piss. And it's on this particular establishment, which shall remain nameless, of course. But it's just all pubs, because there's about 50 to 100 people all using this fucking urinal. Just one row of piss, and then they like keep opening the door times, just wafting it in. But of course they decide to mask this with lemon, your lemony urinal cake. So it's just this disgusting odor of lemon and piss, and then the stench of vomit, because that's what beer really smells like. And you have that whole combination, and none of that was a problem when I was drinking, and everyone, I was always aware of the smell, but it was never a real factor. But now, yeah, that's something that I really noticed. And also, the people in the pub fucking stink also, because as the night goes on, they drink more and more. Their breath smells. They go inside. They smoke. They start to just break into dance. Then they start sweating. So as more time goes by, they just smell worse and worse. And I think that people don't understand is you don't need to drink all the time. No one ever says to you. I imagine because they lack empathy. They're psychopathic in the state. That they don't go like, oh, this person's not drinking. He actually doesn't need much to drink in that case, because they have to drink every half an hour or so, because they're trying to make themselves retarded. So that's a part of it. They have to drink every 30 minutes or so. But if I'm at home, I'm not going to drink that frequently. If I had a pint of water, that's all I need for like 4 or 5 hours the whole night. I'm fine. But what happens is they don't take no for an answer. So every 30 minutes or so, I'm like, oh, do you want a drink? Do you want a drink? Oh, it's my round. It's his round next. And I'll actually say it's like you're drinking pints of water every fucking 30 minutes because they just won't take no for an answer. I said before, crying, just random crying. I saw 3 people break down crying. And what's bizarre about that is they carry sober etiquette into their drunken night. So in sober society, if someone's crying, you go, oh, something must have happened, and you're trying to reassure the person. But you see what's happened here, like nothing's happened. They just randomly broke down crying because they're drunk. That's the only reason. You take alcohol out of the equation, that person's not going to be crying 100%. That's the only thing at play here. So the making them cry is that they're drunk, and and it's like I'm fully aware of this. I'm completely sober, but everyone around me is not aware of it. It's completely dystopian. So they look at you and they start going, "Oh, he's crying. Why don't you pat him on the back, Pab? Don't want to be heartless, do you, Pab? don't want to be a bad person, do you, Pab?" And they just look at you and I'm like, yeah, why is anyone taking this seriously? Like, if someone's crying, a full-grown man. As I said before, we're talking about it being a manly thing, and I'm saying it's a vaginal thing. Case in point, a complete lack of logic in the room, and a fucking full-grown man's crying. Really, what should be happening is people should be, but at least 95% of the pub should be shouting to the bar, "Hey, get some water. This guy's drank too much, and it's fucking embarrassing. This is gay and cringe." That's the only normal response to that. But you can't do it. You're trapped with drunk people. You go, yeah. Oh, how sad. I mean, there's no reason. They've not given a good reason as to why they've just spontaneously burst into tears. But you have to go along with it, because you would be the asshole. You would be the tit if you were like, oh yes, I mean this is complete nothing burger. There's nothing to be sad. And there's a reason why they don't shout to the bar. They're like, oh, hey, alcohol's the problem here, because again, that's all it is. It's same because they don't do it with when there's a fight. Also, you'll notice whenever they break into fights, and I witnessed a couple of fights break out. No one ever stops and goes like, "Oh, the reason we're fighting is because we're drunk." And like, that's the only factor why we're drinking. you know, they have to believe the drunken context. Whatever's happened, oh, no, that person bumped into me, and whatever it is, it's like, no, you're only fighting because you're drunk. Both of you would walk past each other in a sober state and not even think twice. You know, it's like the only factor is alcohol. But again, no one goes like, hey, that's the problem. What else do you see? I say it's just kind of a complete night of dishonesty. People come to you, go, oh, you never guess what I was at the bar. I never guess what the guy at the bar just told me. It's like, I think I fucking will, because you've told me the same story 4 times in the last 2 hours. Just people repeating the stories to you. And again, but you can't be an asshole and just go like, you've told me that already, because then I seem like a bell end, you know. So you just gotta go like, oh yeah, that's funny. And people interrupt. I got mischaracterized again. Of course, that's not gonna go away anytime soon. You know, that's not what I heard. Again, what's my favourite meal? Tell me, anyone what's my favourite? Yeah, no one knows. I only have 3 people that actually know anything about me. You know, if anyone's ever going to write a biography of my life, there's about 3 people, and they're scattered around the world. You know, really, no one really knows much about me at all. But again, that happened, mischaracterized, and just interrupting. So really, that's one of the things people talk about with drinking. We're like, oh, let's have great conversations. Oh, Pablo, you just haven't met me and my friends. It's like 100% whatever great conversation you think you're having, you're not. 100%, you're absolutely not having a great conversation when you're drunk. You're all interrupting each other and fucking talking shit. That's mostly what's happening. You start to have a conversation with someone, but to go, not asked. And you know, I was talking to someone the other day, and I was going like, yeah, so I think we should go here on Tuesday. And you go,
Nah, I think we should go here on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Shut up. I mean, we're saying the same.
Shut up. I think we should go here on Tuesday.
I completely agree. I'm saying the same thing as you.
Shut up. I'm going to punch him in a minute.
Like, and I just have to sit there and take it. I'm just getting DP'd. I got completely drunk privilege just watching fucking simpletons with a pint of water. Just watching and just going, hey, is this worth getting into? Because that's the thing you end up asking yourself, like, is it worth getting into a fight with people over fucking them being drunk? Because if it's in a sober state, I would just go like, don't fucking talk to me like that. I don't even know who you are. You know what I mean? You've no right to talk to me like that. I've got no obligation to even be in the same fucking room as you. You know, but then I have to just be nice because you're drunk. Like, what? But again, the reason why you do is because there's the ever-looming threat of violence in the air. They're just unhinged people, and I'm aware of that. So it's like, fuck it. Because I'm going to sit there and just fucking stare at people. And you know, what else did I see? I saw the wise man. There's a lot of archetypes. And that's what I might do next year if I do a drinking episode. I might just do it on the archetypes. We were talking about the belligerent, spontaneous dancer. You know, you have the fucking loud whore going woo. You have the fighting people, so the crying people. But you also have the wise old man at closing time that approaches me and goes, I mean, what do I know? But you know, when there's a storm, there's usually some wind about. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I didn't fucking ask, actually. I wasn't seeking life advice from a man at a bar at fucking closing time. Like, you know, that's not what I was looking for. Oh, so now when you go to the beach, sometimes the sun's gonna be there, and sometimes it may not. Yeah, that's not that. The thing is, what really should happen if what drunk privilege wasn't at play is 2 people should have been arrested. That's about 9 people should be in a mental asylum. And about 5 people should write a lengthy apology to me. You know, that's what actually should actually be happening. But it's instead the following day they just go, yeah, you're drunk though, innit? You know, and there's no actual recourse to any of the fucking shithousery that they put you through. And yeah, it's like another archetype actually is the weasel. That's another drunk archetype, because you know there'll be people who won't say fuck all to you in a sober state, and not that they should anyway, but you know they'll try and like tell you what to do in your life or something, and they want the balls to say anything in a sober state. Then the second I'll get drunk with those people, it's like then all of a sudden they go, oh, I think you should do this. It's like, you're a fucking weasel. That's the only thing. And when you think I'm going to take for life advice from a weasel, you don't have the confidence to fucking tell me something face to face as a sober person. But now all of a sudden you have some alcohol in your system and you have the balls to start fucking speaking up. Not go fuck yourself. Like, what? You know, that's an archetype. But after that, when I'd interact with weasels, it's like I just lose respect for them. You know, in a sober sense, it's the same thing here. I start losing respect for all those people, and what I kind of thought too is they should kind of really be in the wacky warehouse. That's a better place than a pub for a lot of people. They should be in padded walls. I say they kind of should be in a mental asylum. Padded walls, plastic cups. And like a ball pit and a naughty step for if someone tries to fight. Like that's what should actually happen, because they're just infantilized people. They just infantilize themselves. But it's like the annoyance of it is the drunk privilege, the arrogance that they think, you know, we're on like a level playing field. I say, in this establishment, you go, okay, well, you know, perhaps one might be more intelligent than people there anyway. But it's like, just by proxy of being sober and then being drunk, you're 1,000 times more intelligent than anyone in the building. That should be an accepted fact. It truly should be an accepted fact, but it's not. You know, the sober, the drunk narrative is like, oh no, it's just a bit of alcohol. It doesn't do much. It's like, you're all fucking children. That's the issue has happened. You're now children. Anyway, we got a video. And the comment was just video of the week. Well, it was a very funny video, and it was video of the week, but it was the only video we got of the week. So you know, it's a bit of a one horse race. But if you want to beat this man next episode, you know, send in some videos yourself. Anyway, the ambulance has just arrived, so I better hobble away. I was doing some housework and slipped. Ended up getting a Darth Vader figurine lodged deep inside my rectum. It is 12 inches, and I can't quite explain why it was so well lubed, but it's just one of those things, you know. It's quite embarrassing, but I'm sure they'll understand when I explain it to them. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Do be sure to keep spreading the word. I thank you all for taking the time to listen. Gracias to everyone that contributed. Also, this will be nothing without you. I also hope you're making your fathers proud, and you're doing all the things you told yourself you would this week. Now that the episodes are a little bit shorter, I think that we will both be freer to resume our existences with optimal productivity. It is important we use our time wisely, and in these times, it's the timeliest time for us to be wise. We played out this week with a song called By the Book by Charles Bernier. He's a propagandist, lovely little diddly. I think the first real acoustic number we've had. I think it's good to have variety. Follow him on Facebook, across social media, and also check out his YouTube channel. Do keep sending in your own tunes if you'd like to be featured on the pod. share, subscribe, yank the bell end so you don't miss an episode. Follow me across social media at Pab the Crab. We are the algorithm. Buy a fucking book, educate yourself, and know that the time for peace is upon us.
Good people aren't about to compromise. You can see commitment shining in their eyes. Others give it all away. You can hear it in the things they sometimes say. They're working on an angle, gonna give themselves a plan, gonna find a better way around just to get them by the man. They're living by the book with any way to make it pay, and they say what they think they ought to say. Well, let them justify their sleight of hand. I believe that they don't really understand. It's not the things that they might say, but the way they live life 7 days a week. They work in the mirror, see what they want to see. They believe they're in a better life than the one for you and me. They're living by the book with any way to make it pay, and they say what they think they ought to say. We'd better be prepared as best we can. We might just have to deal with them again. With any luck when that time's near, we won't end up with those people around here. There'll be someplace somewhat warmer than the place they thought they'd go. Bet they'll cry it's so unfair after all they did, you know. They're living by the book with any way to make it pay, and they say what they think they ought to say. They're living by the book with any way to make it pay, and they say what they think they ought to say. Say what they think they ought to say. They say what they think they ought to say.